Quiet on the set. All together. And action.
Welcome to MediaMaker Spotlight from women in film and video in Washington, D.C. We bring you conversations with industry professionals for behind the screens, insight, and inspiration.
Thank you for joining us. This is a special all-host episode because it's our 100th episode. This is a big milestone for us, and we're very excited. So we're celebrating with another host special. So I am one of the three hosts, Candice Block, joined here with
Sandra Abrams.
Tara Jabari.
Yay! Okay, so we rotate as I'm sure our avid listeners already know. For newcomers, it's a rotating thing. Sometimes we do these host specials though, and all three of us can come together, and that is what we're doing now to celebrate the show, some milestones, talk about some history, some of our favorite episodes, and also it happens to coincide our 100th episode with Women in Film and Video's 45th anniversary year, which is, the organization that we are a service of. So we don't exist without WIF. And we're going to share a little bit about that as well as continuing the celebrations. So welcome, everyone.
Thanks, everyone, for subscribing and listening and watching us now.
Yeah, it's been interesting since we've added YouTube.
No, what's interesting is that we'll get so many downloads, but then we'll turn around and we'll get 300 views or we'll get 500 views on the YouTube, and how important that has become. So we had to go into when we changed everything and added the YouTube, we had to also change all our templates and change our information and emphasize to people it's audio and video. And then people go, oh, wait a minute, video? Oh, I got to go do my hair.
Yeah.
They go put lipstick on,
So we have been doing video since episode 68. We did mention that we are from WIF, so we can also just get some of those fun facts said as well. So Women in Film and Video, it's our 45th anniversary year. And that means we began in 1979, I believe September of 1979. It was a group of women getting together in living rooms and deciding to put together this, a dozen or so women decided to put together this organization to help advocate for underrepresented voices. And we're so grateful that they did that. It's grown and continued to grow and expand. Some fun milestones along the way in that are in 1988, WIF first opened an office and hired full-time staff. In 1994, we started our Women of Vision Awards, and we have done several episodes where usually Sandra, she's kind of our resident Women of Vision honoree interviewer. We interview some of our honorees on the show here. We've been doing all kinds of things. We joined the internet in 1997 and got our wif.org website going. We've offered different, all kinds of different mentorship programs, and we've expanded what we can offer filmmakers. We've got different roundtables. In 2006 is when WIF DC started Script DC, which is a sort of little conference that we do every year to do some in-person training and everything. We became an official fiscal sponsor to help independent filmmakers in 2010. We have seed funds for documentary filmmakers, documentary development fellowship, and I think, not most importantly, but certainly a highlight, in 2022, we launched the podcast.
I'll say
and when
it's
we
the most
launched,
important part.
Yeah, here's the thing. It's a great educational resource, and it's a wonderful piece of programming that WIF offers because of all of the different subjects that we cover, right? We've talked to all kinds of people.
Yeah.
We're going to go over some of those topics when we get into some of our favorite episodes, but we've talked to people in all stages of pre-production, production, post-production, even just film and television appreciation. So we are a really good resource, I genuinely believe, for anyone interested in or even a part of the screen-based filmmaking industry.
Well, and the other thing is that we work so closely with WIF and making sure that we highlight all of those people. And as you mentioned, we've interviewed some of those people. So the current president, as we are recording, is Connie St. John. And we did speak to her last August, and she gave more history about why the 45th was so important and how we're celebrating. But also, Candice, you were part of a booklet that put the history together. And that's also another opportunity for people to learn more about WIF.
Yeah, I don't think it's available anymore, but I did design. If you're on YouTube, you can see it. I did design a booklet with some input from a couple other ladies. Everything we do here is volunteer, so I was kind of reading that off of our. It's blurry, but off of a timeline, and there's lots of fun facts, and there's a lot of history in that, and I just made myself blurry. Okay, I'm still blurry. So it's a new factor of this is being on YouTube. So you have to care about if you're in focus, and we have to look nice now when we record.
Yep.
Do you guys remember the good old days
When we didn't have to?
When we didn't have to do video? I mean, we chose to. We didn't have to do video, and it is kind of fun and exciting to have that element and be on YouTube as well. So that's great, and it's really opened us up to a broader audience as well, because so many people get their podcast content through YouTube. So happy to be here.
And it also made a difference when we went to the podcast conference that was at National Harbor back in August. We announced our name change there. We had it announced in Pod News, but we also heard from other people saying, oh, well, we haven't started doing video yet. And so we were saying, well, we're kind of ahead of the curve. We're doing it. And I thought that was a great opportunity for us. We were all together, the different members. There was Steve Lack, who does Steve Lack Audio. And then all three of us were at that conference. And I think that we really made a great showing being there together. I wasn't able to make it when you guys went to LA, but
the one that was in DC was fitting that we were able to all be there, and we were the 4 sort of founding members of the podcast. Yeah. So we've had different people come on to join the team, and some people have left and some other people have come, and it's, we're always growing and expanding, but we have been the 3 hosts from the inception, and Steve has been our audio mixer from the very beginning. Yeah. So we are the 4. They're the tried and true still from day one. And day one, we published our very first episode on March 1st, 2022, so that we could kick off Women's History Month with this lovely show from Women.
I did not realize that tie-in, but that is a great piece of trivia. Thank you, Candice.
Yeah, no problem. If we want to just go a little bit into some of our trivia about the show and some of our history, obviously we started under the name Media and Monuments, and then we rebranded last year. We are now MediaMaker Spotlight. We did a whole big rebranding, and we have, gotten more knowledge and experience and changed our format. We used to do seasons. Now we just do consecutive episodes. Some of our earlier episodes had like 2 parts, so multi guests and different segments. And now it's just, one focus on one guest at a time. And now we have video. We'll see whatever the next stage is going to be. I have no idea what the next step in our evolution will be, but stay tuned.
I was going to also share that, coming back to the whole idea of the video aspect of it, we also learned, and going to these conferences and things, we used to just do the graphic usually to promote the podcast, particularly on social media. Mm-hmm. But then we started doing at least 2 clips. Now we do 4 clips, particularly on YouTube Shorts, because podcasting, it's evolved so much since, even in this short time since 2022, where everyone was like, you got to get on video, you got to get on video, you got to get on YouTube. So we've been learning and growing, and it's been a really interesting way of understanding how things are working in not just like media industry, but as for consumers as well, because this is educational as well as for entertainment. As that's why I really like what we're doing with now MediaMaker Spotlight. Remember, I'm not changing the name again. Right. But I always said, if I wasn't involved, I would listen to it. I would be a subscriber because I liked that we go through all over the gamut from pre-production, post, and everything else, right? Mm-hmm. How do you promote it? How do you do this? We've talked to academics, those kinds of things. So I really like it because it's been a huge learning experience for me. And then we get to share what we've learned to others.
Yeah. I'm really proud of the range of topics we've covered. I mean, we there's very few, if any, we've even repeated. And that's kind of impressive considering we're at our 100th episode. I mean, there's so much you can learn and there's so much that goes into media production that, oh my goodness. I mean, it's like we talk to actors about different projects. We talk to producers, directors, editors, cinematographers, composers. Like there's just so much that goes into it. And we talk about things that affect the industry as well. Like we covered the strikes, when that was going on.
That was a great episode that you did, Candice. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you. And we don't shy away from the variety, right? We'll talk to independent, we'll talk to television, we'll talk to bigger producers, we talk to social media creators. We've talked to a lot, and then also it is part of the industry, like critics and appreciators, people who write books about the history of the industry and all of that. So there's so much, and it's such a amazing. There's so much we can cover, and there's so much more we're still going to continue to cover, but it's fantastic to know that, we're still finding new topics we haven't yet covered, and we're trying to get, people on the show for that. So, and as Tara pointed out, like we learn about these subjects is one of the things I love about this show and being a part of it, and why we do it for free, as volunteer to do it is, not only do we learn about it and the media making industry and have a fantastic time talking to really amazing, inspiring, wonderful professionals, but we've also learned so much about podcasting. And so this is like opening us up to that whole world as well. And podcasting with the video is kind of becoming screen-based media as well. It's not entirely, it's not like making a TV show, but it's a consideration. So it's something to think about.
It's like a talk show, as I was able to attend with Sandra at the Ambies this year, 2025. And Tig Notaro was the host, and she made this nice observation that it was like, oh, it's like a talk show host. But instead of being on TV where you have to think of all the hair and makeup, people were just doing it audio-based. And now the video is back. So you've done a full circle.
Yeah.
And then I was pointing out that the talk show host, it's actually radio that turned into talk show, like the Johnny Carson and stuff like that. And then they went back to podcasting. So it's still going full circle.
There's so many cycles. It reminds me of kind of the cycle of the streaming platforms. If you think about it, we had cable with ads, and then you would purchase a subscription to a streamer to avoid ads. And then they started making it more expensive and doing ad versions. And now you have, different types of platforms that are like free with ads and all these tiers. So we're essentially circling back to cable television, like we started with ad breaks. So it all comes back around. I mean, look, we've all seen, especially even what's going on with the country now and the world and everything comes back around again. History is constantly repeating itself. You'd think we would learn, but we humans just make the same mistakes over and over and over again. With fancier technology each go around, I guess.
Right. And that's the thing about the technology. Thanks to Steve, I didn't know what to buy at first. And he was able to guide us in that way. And that's why he was so important then, but so important now. I know for me in doing this, it gave me an opportunity to get back to what I had started out in TV business, in the TV news business, and doing production. And I had that opportunity to get back to doing the production, but also learning new skills. And I think that's the thing about creative people, all of us here. We're always looking at ways to learn new skills, keep our skills up, and learn and try new things. And being in the volunteer situation, if we make a mistake, well, we're volunteers. So that's no one's going to get upset with us. Whereas I can think of a few things in my past working in news production that have gone wrong. And here it's really wonderful because I can utilize my writing skills when I was a print reporter, but that opportunity to just always learn and an opportunity to meet people and hear their stories, because all of us are storytellers and we want to hear what other people have to say. And that's also been a great opportunity in doing the podcast.
I also like that we kind of build our networks as well. So we all like this industry and are involved in some way or another in this industry. That's why we're with members, we're all board members. I'm just about to actually, when this comes out, it's going to be one of the last episodes before I end my second term as executive vice president, which has been an honor to serve with on the exec board as well. But yeah, it's like you meet people when you interview them, and you have that rapport, and you can connect with them again potentially. You know, not everyone we've been able to, you know, chat with or befriend necessarily to a certain degree, but you've had this conversation with them. And if you need to reach out again, so many of our guests have been absolutely wonderful and friendly about like, yeah, and if you have a question about that, or you know, need some advice, like just shoot me an email. Like everybody's so kind, and we've had such wonderful people on the show. So I just love that it's expanding our network, and you find in every interview that we've talked about all the things that run throughout everybody's, you know, successful careers is all the networking and all the connection. And WIF is an organization that's all about networking as well as education. And it's true, like we're just with every new interview, we're expanding our own networks. Yeah. And I think it's phenomenal. And the networks for our membership as well, because, you know, then you see and hear people, and it's usually, you know, in the show notes or at the end, it's how you can reach me and all that stuff, and how you can learn more about these wonderful creators. So I think that's another thing that I absolutely loved about this show is, you know, the people as well as learning even more about all the subjects. Cause I will say, I don't have one singular passion in the media making space. And some people do, some people don't. You know, it's like, I want to be an editor and that's all I do. I mean, I've done editing, I've done all these different things. I've done, you know, art, stage stuff and everything as well. But I like that it's such a wide variety. And so, and everything's connected. It's teams that come together. So you can be a specialist, but it's also good to have knowledge of those other people that you're working with. So whether you decide to become, you know, like a director or cinematographer, it's good to have experience in more than one, you know, facet of the production world before you dive into that. And I love that and pride myself on being somebody who is, as I say, as people, if they might have seen tagged on socials, Jane of many lanes, I like to call myself a Jane of many lanes. It's embracing a twist on the full jack of all trades quote, that jack of all trades, but master of none is oftentimes better than master of one. So it celebrates being well-rounded and Renaissance and person and all of that. So I love that. And I feel like the media making industry is that, you know, you get to use, even if you are in one specific discipline, you still get to use, I think, more than one skill, you know?
And we've learned that from a lot of our guests. A lot of our guests will say, even when they're really specialized, they said, well, we started in different realms, learned from these different realms, found the passion. But because I knew I worked in sound, but I like special effects, I knew what the sound needed to get my job in special effects. And that's why I was hired so many times. That kind of thing. It was always
exactly.
You hear it all time and time again. Editors, the same story too.
Yeah, it's like you need to understand lighting if you're going to be a good director. You need to understand, you know, just so many things. But it's amazing. I love this industry and filmmaking in general.
What the other thing is, though, you get to meet people that you want to have a conversation with. And that's why when we were talking about our favorite shows, and I was thinking of the Bridgerton episode, and that was episode 73. I had been watching the Bridgerton and had been obsessed with it. That interview took a long time to get, but when it happened, it was so exciting and so gratifying to have that opportunity to speak to those people, but then also say to them, what's your advice for someone who's listening to this and wants to be in the production design business? Or in Bridgerton, the person that the hair and makeup person had won an Emmy for season 2. And here I was now speaking to that person. What's your advice that you want to get into that? So again, it gets back to having not only speaking to somebody that you're excited to talk to and learn from, but the listeners and the people who are enjoying the episode will learn something from it as well.
Almost all of our interviews have advice at some point in it. I mean, not only do you get inspiration just hearing someone's story and hearing what they do, and it's interesting and fascinating, but everyone's, you know, open to share, to pay it forward and share what they've learned and give such great advice. You did mention, you know, Emmy winners. We've talked to Emmy winners, Oscar nominees, you know, all kinds of, like, so many awards. Just offhand, I can't think of, you know, specifically all of them, but I know we've talked to so many really like accomplished professionals that have won a
Right.
ton of awards. And
Yeah.
I know you guys might know of some more. Do you know of some more offhand?
Right. Well, I was thinking, we interviewed the co-directors. One was Deborah McClatchy. She was one of the co-directors for the Martha Mitchell Effect. And then after we interviewed them, it turns out they were nominated, not just for any award, but for an Oscar in the category of Best Documentary Short Film. And that was in 2022. So we were able to take a clip, turn it around, and then post it on the WIF social media. Hey, we interviewed these people. They were nominated for an Oscar. And that was really exciting to see something like that happen.
Yeah. And even more recently, we talked to the people from September 5, the director and a couple of the stars, and that was nominated for Best Documentary as a Golden Globe nominee. So there's
not
all
documentary because it's a film, but it was like adapted screenplay.
Best,
something like that. But one of my favorites is that we're being requested. For instance, the publicist for Carl Lumbly requested me to be like, would you be interested in interviewing Carl Lumbly? He's going to be in the new Captain America. I was like, Dixon from Alias? Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody.
I guess we're doing something right. We're hitting these milestones, right? It definitely is a milestone to, you get the achievements because we host our show with Buzzsprout. So shout out to Buzzsprout. Thank you. So we host with them and
they gave us our pins.
Yes,
C4. And our 100th episode pin is courtesy of Buzzsprout.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, we get these achievements, right? So they celebrate your achievements, and it's just nice to see each new milestone and achievement. And it's something to celebrate. And so not only do we have those from just like numbers and stats and like, location, because we've, recorded with people all over the world. But I mean, it's really exciting to see. And then we have our other types of milestones as well. Like, yes, like Tara said, we have people that reach out to the podcast now. Quite often we'll have people saying like, hi, I'm this filmmaker, or I'm a part of this film festival, or I'm, doing this project, or I represent this actor or actress, and do they want to be on the show? So I feel like that's just really saying something about,
it's a nice problem to have when we're like,
exactly.
Well, now we can't, we got to fit the schedule, but I'm sorry, we can't do it in the timeline you'd like. But if you want to be in it, you just have to wait.
Yeah.
Right. Well, the other thing is that some of these shows lead to other shows. And one of the things you mentioned earlier, the film critic that was in the book Opposable Thumbs, that was Matt Singer. He's with the New York Film Critic, and our producer Brandon had reached out to him. And then that book, because it was about Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert, Brandon was able to reach out to Roger Ebert's widow. And then we just interviewed Chaz Ebert. And then it turns out she not only had a book that she was promoting, but she has done a short documentary about this woman who was the founder of the Golden Door. And she's working on it to expand it. But again, one episode is leading to another episode. And we're saying, well, thanks in part to all of us and our connections in meeting people, but also our producer, Brandon, is reaching out to people as well. So that has been great to see these different connections and, onto something else.
Yeah, and you may be hearing from Brandon himself soon. He was at Ebert Fest, and so he got some interviews there. So stay tuned for all of that as well. But yeah, I mean, currently, Brandon Ferry is our booking producer. Michelle Kim is our video editor. We've had some other editors that have come on to help with audio as well. So I mean, we're just a great team, and everyone really contributes so much. And we meet. Once a week is kind of a thing that we like to do.
And we're volunteers. We're very dedicated, volunteering every week.
Right. We're a committee that has truly become friends, and we see each other often, that's how you become friends, when you have a sort of standing meeting, and you see each other all the time. So I just wanted to share a quick fact, a couple things more about the show. And then we wanted to dive in a little bit about talking about some of our favorite episodes that we each have had throughout our history, going back from the beginning to now, some that have stood out for us. We could chat about that for a little bit, because we don't want this to be 1,000 hours long, this one. Our host specials are usually a little bit longer because we just gab, which is great. But but we mentioned some of these already. combining all of the ways that you can access our podcast, which is now on YouTube. So putting together YouTube and all the different audio only platforms like, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. Our 3 most listened to episodes so far currently, as we were recording this, is Lessons in Filmmaking with What Went Wrong podcast, which Tara hosted. Bridgerton on Netflix, Behind the Scenes of Season 3, which Sandra hosted, and September 5, Inside the Day of Terror, that changed live TV,
Yay.
hosted by
Go
me.
Candice.
So
Go Candice.
I love that our top 3, we
us.
each have one in there,
Yeah,
which
that's
is great.
wonderful. That's great.
And I think it shows like the caliber of the guests and everything and the projects that we get to talk about, because those are clearly popular because they're connected to larger, more well-known, topics and subjects. Obviously, Bridgerton, huge sensation, right? September 5, especially getting those nominations, it was like very searched, at the time, and people wanted to learn more about it. And What Went Wrong podcast is a very popular show.
Yeah,
so,
it's growing and growing.
Yeah. So, and we're just, it shifts and it's changing, and some episodes slide up and down and everything. It's kind of fun to see how they're doing.
Oh, that was the other thing I wanted. The clips are quite interesting to learn about too, because the views, some of the more popular shorts were completely different from what these top episodes were. One was about the visual effects episode. One was the episode where it's like a podcast where the blacklist scripts, and then they turn into at least a podcast kind of format for the scripts, like completely different from September 5 or What Went Wrong and Bridgerton. So it's interesting to hear these things and to see where it gets growth from.
Yeah, well, it's also kind of shows the randomness too. I mean, we'll have something that's even tied to a popular, IP, and it doesn't get as many hits as just one random other one. It's just kind of like what happens, that the algorithms are mysteries to us all, and sometimes it's just, did you happen to post something on the right day or have the right word in your description? It's kind of crazy. But yes, our, in terms of views, our shorts outperform most of our full episodes because, people have short attention spans. But doing the video and switching to YouTube to have video is what's enhanced our little highlight clips in the shorts from like the little teaser snippets from each episode. And it's nice to get that, that little taste and see if it's an episode you want to watch. So speaking of episodes you want to you want to listen to more, which have some of your favorites been over the years? Or, oh my God, I can say that, over the years. Wow, we've been around for so long. Okay.
I'll go ahead. I don't know if these are my favorites, but I like these episodes for different reasons. And the first one, of course, was Oscar and His Ladies. And we talked about the lack of women representation in the top 5 nomination. And that's also been very highly ranked. But it was one of my favorites because it was my first episode that I had ever done. And I was really challenging myself. Can I really do this? And that to me just made that episode so special. I mentioned Bridgerton. That was also good. I really enjoyed doing In Her Hands, which was a documentary. And that was one that had won the Toronto International Film Festival. But also it got funding from Hillary Clinton and her daughter. That was one of the first films that they had put their foundation and put money behind. And so I thought, that makes it interesting. And it was international. Abby Greensfelder, who was also a woman of vision. And what I didn't know until we had nominated her, she was the person that came up with the concept of Say Yes to the Dress. Abby was from here. She had gone wedding dress shopping here, I think in Arlington or Alexandria, Virginia, and could not find what she wanted. And then later on became friends with the Kleinfelds up in New York. When I lived in New York, I went there on numerous occasions being a bridesmaid. And so that episode became enjoyable because of the backstory with Abby. And then Abby left Discovery, went on, formed her own company, but then she now does documentaries. And she did last year a documentary with Alicia Keys, saying she is the music. And it's about Alicia Keys' music camps that she has for young brown and black girls. So if you're making a song, here's how you're going to deal with the lawyers so you don't lose any money. And that's what they teach these young girls at this camp. And I just thought what her history and what happened from, saying yes to the dress to now what she's doing And one more I'll just add, Call Me Dancer. And our producer, Brandon, had pointed that out. And he said, you have to go see this film. And it turns out the three people involved, the main director, Leslie Champagne, and Pip Gilmer, they are also WIF members. And again, that WIF connection. But they filmed this young guy, Mishna, and he ended up becoming a ballet dancer, and they go to India. That film won so many awards. And I just recently reached out to Leslie, and she said that it's going to be on PBS probably in the fall. And then they've won about 25 awards. And she also got, from filming that, she got a Fulbright grant based on the film. And she went to India for 6 months. And the film's been screened at 90 film festivals around the world since, we've spoken to her. So these are just like fun little things that have happened, since we interviewed her.
Yeah, there's a lot of great updates from a lot of our guests. I mean, we've interviewed some people after they've won awards, and then we've interviewed some right before they win awards. And it's fun to look back over our years of these shows and our 100 episodes and check in on the people that we got to have these conversations with and how they're doing. I mean, I remember even doing the rewarding chaos of live broadcasting with my former classmate and friend, Pam.
And the stats are very good on that show as well.
Yeah, that's actually, if you just look at audio, not audio plus video, that's actually the number one downloaded. And Pam Schvatkin, she, a few months after that won an Emmy. And so it's so exciting to see. And it's, we're rooting for all the people that we bring on the show and talk to on the show. They become kind of peripherally a part of the family, and it's fun to see, like, you're rooting for them. If they're nominated for something, you watch the awards and you're like, come on, so it's really exciting. And there's, obviously a lot more. We don't actively keep in touch and check on everybody, but it is nice to see when somebody pops up.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah. So, yeah, but no, I mean, there's tons. Tara, I can go next, or do you want to go next with some of your?
I just remember when Sandra, I didn't know this about Sandra's guest for the Say Yes to the Dress. So when I was listening to it and you guys started talking about it, I was like, what? And I texted Sandra immediately. I'm like, that is my comfort show, Say Yes to the Dress. I didn't know that she was there. And then I didn't realize that you were talking to Maxine Peake.
Oh, just recently about Words of War.
Mm-hmm. We had our meeting right afterwards, and I was flipping out because I was like, I want to be there. I'm a huge fan of Silk. Oh my God.
It's funny. We do sometimes fight over guests.
Yeah.
Because so we rotate as hosts.
No, I wouldn't say fight. It's a very gentle.
Yeah. Sometimes there's like, if someone might be on the show, we're like, I call them, or like, how's your schedule? Yeah. And but it is, as Tara pointed out, like, it's a surprise to the other guests as well. Like we do individually, like we produce and research and do all the stuff for our individual episodes. And that kind of helps distribute the workload. That's sort of how we manage to do this with all of our other, full-time jobs and everything, is because we are bi-weekly now. We used to be weekly. Now we're bi-weekly. And that's so that we can manage our lives and do all of this. And with the 3 rotating hosts, it's still a lot of work, but it's doable because of that. So, I appreciate that you ladies are also, hosts, and we do this all together, because we'll occasionally join together on an episode or do these host specials. But for the most part, it's a nice surprise to listen to what another guest has done or another host has done, because it's a brand new, fresh interview for us too. So, or to listen to as an audience member.
So no, you go ahead, Candice. Say it. Let's save the best for last.
Okay. But yeah, so same thing with Sandra, where it's hard to pick a favorite. I don't really have a favorite, but some ones that stand out to me that I remember still to this day is I really did love talking to Dr. Erin McDonald, who's the science advisor for the Star Trek franchise.
Oh, that was a great episode. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, she's a science communicator. So she's like really good at explaining things. And, also sciencey stuff. I really loved talking to NASA, because I learned about some of that resources that they have that I don't think a lot of people know about. I also really enjoyed, I talked to an archivist. So we talked about archival producing. That was just really fascinating. It was like a more fascinating interview than I was expecting almost. Not that I wasn't expecting it to be awesome, but I just remember thinking like, I can't believe this is one of my favorite episodes now. Like I really loved the cinematographer episode. I thought that was really great. It's also like personally, you like the ones that are about the subjects that you find fascinating, right? So I like the ones that are, you know, about special effects or stunts or, you know, things that are more about the types of projects that I like. And also just sort of like not selfishly, well, you know, we all, I think, have a special place in our heart for the episodes that we host, right? So like generally we're like, all the ones I hosted are my favorite. And then Tara's like, all the ones I hosted are my favorite. But they're so great. So it does span, like not all of my favorites are ones that are the ones that stand out or ones that I've hosted. Also, we get to know people and sometimes we get people on the show because we know them and it's all connections and who you know. So I've been able to talk to some of my friends on the show and those ones they hold a special place in my heart too, because it's lovely to see your friends doing well and, you know, getting to a place and having projects that are, you know, popular and you can talk about them on this show. You know, I think that's great. So it's been really fun to talk to friends. And I also thought it was really special to be able to do the strikes, to talk about those as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's just too many to name.
But going
I'm sure
back
I'll think of others, but yeah.
To how this podcast is a resource, my best friend she was always either thinking of like being a casting agent or an archivist working in media, something. So when your episode came up, again, I wasn't really sure what that episode was in the meeting. So when I was listening to it, I'm like, oh, this is exactly what my friend wants to do. So I sent her the episode. She's like, I knew there was a career in this.
That's so cool. I never knew that.
Yeah, it does become a resource of what you can do or what the possibilities are. And then I can't remember, were they in DC, but NASA was there at one of the podcast conferences. And I was like, you know, we spoke to NASA on our podcast.
Yeah. Well, actually, a follow-up on that, I have a couple of connections at NASA. And so I actually got to see Erin McDonald give a talk at NASA after we had done our interview for the podcast. So I got to see her in person and we knew each other then. So that was actually extra special to be like, oh, and now we can have a photo together too. Because we do this remotely, right? We do this over... we use Riverside as our platform for recording. Shout out to Riverside. We're able to talk to people all over the world. So I know Tara is kind of our resident globetrotter. She bounces around the globe herself. So she's kind of the obvious go-to to talk to our international guests. Yeah, so Tara, you have some stats about international, and then you can share of those favorites. Okay, do your favorites first.
Really quickly. Blockbuster. Because
the Blockbuster episode, yes.
I totally geeked out and I did not think you guys were going to agree with me.
Why would we not agree? It's such a good subject.
It was season 2, like really in the beginning. And I was like, well, that's not really what we're doing, but I'll ask them. And everyone's like, yeah, let's do it. And then I contacted them and they're like, yeah, sure. Let's talk. But they were only going to do it on the phone. So it wasn't the best quality, but I didn't care. I took the chance. It was awesome. And I totally geeked out. What went wrong, which I got to meet Chris Renterbauer in person at one of the conferences more recently. So I do keep in touch with them. I'm still waiting for the day where they ask me to be on their podcast. And then it was also working with all these different people in different countries. I was able to attend the Venice Film Festival and I got to interview Zanya. Zina, you know what? I say her name right in the episode, but she was in Ukraine and I interviewed her while she was in Ukraine and I was back in the States, but we met at the Venice Film Festival where her film premiered. It was difficult for people to get it. The film is called Honeymoon, but it was a very powerful film. And just to meet these independent films, and that's how I got the contact for September 5, which allowed us to get them on the podcast. That's how I got Kat and Hannah for Women Behind the Wheel.
Oh, I love that episode.
That's a great the Venice Film Festival. You know, that kind of thing. So again, it was one event or festival, but because I had MediaMaker Spotlight, I had a nice, cool, legitimate excuse to approach people and to keep in contact and to learn from them. And Carl Lumbly totally freaked out. And then one that has not come out yet, but will be out, is with Michael Kennedy for Hard Eyes, which came out earlier this year, but we're going to release it closer to Halloween. So like whenever, that was a really fun conversation. And then when we stopped recording, because I was able to watch the film, I asked him some things about the film, like spoilers, because I had theories, and then he confirmed my theories.
Well, that one's good that it was not while it was recording. I know that often you stop recording and then there's another question, or you're just chatting with the person. You're like, I wish I was still recording for this. But yeah, that's so it was fun
to like, again, that was one of my things where it's like, oh, now I can ask you, why did you do this for the killer? Because I think this, that, and then they confirmed it.
And Hard Eyes is crushing it. It's one of the most the most popular horrors.
I genuinely liked it, and I liked how everyone was like, "That's you, Tara," and then I was like, "This is me. I love this movie."
I still have to see it. I really do want to see it. I'm also a supporter of Josh Rubin, the director, so I want to make sure to support that as well. So. Yeah. But so speaking of the international, you have some international stats.
Fun stats. We wanted to share just the fun kind of things of anyone that was either really the guests that are from outside of the US and recorded while outside of the US. So in total, it was about 14 episodes.
Wow, that many.
Yeah, I didn't think it'd be that many.
That's great.
Yeah.
No, I think.
I mean, there were plenty of more international people, but then I was like, oh no, they were in DC. That doesn't count. Or, like that kind of thing. Or they were in Los Angeles. That doesn't count. So it's even more. But yeah. So I went in order of airing. So the first one is Alberto Gelpi, or Gelpi it might be. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting. He was also in person, because it was in Italy. I was in Rome, and he was a director and a filmmaker in Italy. So we actually met in person. And it was in the streets in Monte District, which is where Julius Caesar is from. And so again, it wasn't the perfect place, but also we kind of liked it. I remember Steve Lack was like, no, we can work with it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's nice to hear the ambiance of a situation. And
so
as long as you can understand the content, it's nice. We value audio quality a lot here. We want to have a great sounding show, and we do almost as much as we can. And I do think we sound fantastic. But occasionally, even like with the blockbuster episode, or if someone's calling in, it's like if the content is there, that's the most important part.
That was episode 9. Episode 20 is Ken Zemke, who is technically American, but he has been in New Zealand for over 30 years, and he was my old boss, and he was an editor. He won an Emmy back in the 60s, and his protege was Martin Scorsese, and I didn't know that. So in the episode, you'll hear me be like, Kenneth, you never told me that. So he was talking about editing and how it has changed, and how they used to edit over the decades, and also why he moved to New Zealand, and all the film industry differences and all that stuff. So that was cool to hear from that. That was episode 20. Episode 23 is Ben Eady, who was Canadian, very proud Canadian. He did a lot of blockbusters, and it was for Prey, I think, was really why he came on.
Well, I just love special effects, and I had a friend connection to that one as well, or a cousin connection to him.
And Prey
that was one of my favorites. It was really fun.
Yeah, because Prey was coming out or just came out, and it's now stood the test of time.
Well, I also don't think we were able to talk about it in the interview, but he made a thing hand for Wednesday. For a promo, he not for in the show, but for a viral promo campaign or whatever with it. So he made this little walking hand they used outside to get reactions from people and everything for Wednesday. So it was before Wednesday came out, and because we've been doing this a while.
Episode 29 is Sarah Lisa Volm, who is a female filmmaker in Berlin, Germany. And I remember she was talking about how she made a pretty serious film, and talking about doing a film festival in Mexico and then in Germany, and how the audiences interacted with it, the reactions. So it was very cool to hear about that kind of international experience. Tamana Aizi, who was in London, but from Afghanistan, and her I think it was a documentary, correct?
It
Sandra?
was a documentary feature.
Feature. And that was the Clinton project.
Right. It was the one that they had helped fund to get that film finished.
Yeah.
Because in the middle of our troops leaving Afghanistan, she shows in the film, she's getting on the plane and leaves, but still needed to finish the film.
So that one was the next one. That was episode 29 with Sarah Lisa, and she was episode 30. So we, again, were pretty international on these different kinds of themes of locations and stuff. Episode 39 was the next big international guest, which was Malakoff Kowalski, which was my cousin. And he's a composer based in Germany and works all over. Again, he kind of touched on, when I have to work in Los Angeles, how do I think of that? When I have to work in France, how do I think of that? And compose music about that. Then episode 45, again, that was in person with me when I was in Cape Town, South Africa, with Shimi Isaacs. She's a South African actor and comedian and writer. And that's another really good favorite one, because we got to talk about so many different things, including sexism and racism across the different borders, because she also came to the United States for a little while to work, and the differences that she noticed. And so that was really interesting, I think. Pascal Neuschafer. I apologize for everyone where I'm pronouncing your name wrong. I've been there, if it helps. Episode 57, she is a South African cinematographer and camera operator. That one was really fun. Different, obviously, country, but also in a predominantly historically male-dominated profession, to hear it from the female perspective. Melissa Johns, which was episode 61, actor and writer in the UK. And it was also about the disabilities.
Right.
portraying.
The fact that she was born with one of her arms was not fully formed, but yet here she is. She's having a very productive career, whether she's doing a one-woman show, whether she's on this PBS Grantchester show, or doing something for the theater, and how she does not let that stop her. And also people can learn from that situation. Don't let that hold you back.
Yeah, it's great for representation of all types of people, you know. That's what's great about like a lot of the things that we talk about with, you know, inclusivity, and our whole concept and show is about helping underrepresented voices, and that's what our organization is about, and you know, all of that. So, and you still have some more to go, but I know it's like storytelling is universal, right? So whether somebody's in one country or another, like you can still get all of this great information about, you know, and it's a global industry. We do like to focus on the Mid-Atlantic because that's where we're based and where we serve as our organization, but people travel all over the place. A lot of people have ties to this area and then are now based elsewhere. And DC itself is a very international city.
The embassies are mostly here. So it's true.
So it's nice to do the international as well.
We just have a few more. Episode 71 was Anna Somershoff from Israel with Sandra. Again, episode 73 was Bridgerton, miscellaneous. We had quite a few different people, mostly in London. And then episode 89 was Zanya, who was in Kiev, Ukraine, when I interviewed her. Episode 94 was Catherine Haig and Hannah Cogden for Women Behind the Wheel. One was in Buenos Aires. One was in London when they were filming. But
that was episode 95, wasn't it?
594. It was in the 90s.
Well,
one of those.
It's 100.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of start after 100.
Maxine,
You lose. You
and
get,
finally, we have Maxine Peake, who is from the UK, but was being recorded in Australia, which I thought was kind of unique.
She was in Melbourne, Australia. She was working on a project there, and so there was a big 12-hour difference. But again,
I was going to say, you see the efforts we go through.
We figure it out. We go, 12 hours? No, not a problem. You're right, Candice.
Not all of us travel like Tara and do in person in Italy and Venice, you know, and in South Africa. But
I did count this originally. She has different passports. Flora Mendoza, she is a former actress and singer, and we used her for episode 41, which was about being
like getting your SAG card and being a working
card
actor.
and stuff like that. She and I, she was recording in Cape Verde, and I was recording in Nairobi, Kenya, and like constantly had trouble and stuff. And it was before we did video, but I was like, oh, I guess not. I guess that doesn't count. So I put it away, but I put it right underneath. So
yeah, it's like an honorable mention or whatever.
It is. I think so. But that's just from the international. But again, we had so many different DEI people on.
And we spoke specifically about diversity and DEI. We talked about JEDI. We talked about, justice, equity, diversity, inclusion. We talked about disability inclusion, and we've had people
we spoke to Ariel Baska about,
Also,
and Nasreen Al-Khatib about disabilities, even like unseen ones, not everybody has a disability that you can see. So it's important to talk about that as well. And, we've just talked about so many things with so many great people, and we will continue to talk about so many great things with so many people. We're running quite long, so we should wrap it up, but we definitely, that's true. It's 100 episodes. We're going to go 100 minutes. No, it's, as you can see, we're passionate about it. We love it. We hope you're passionate about the show as well. And you can hear, we've touched on a lot of the ones that we've covered. So if you haven't, hopefully one of these, if you haven't listened yet, has sparked your interest and you'll go back and listen. We have all of our archives are always out there, search around the catalog, if subscribe so you get all the new ones that are coming out, but also look back. We have also on our website, MediaMakerSpotlight.com. You can search by category. You can search by subject. You can search by term. You can search by even, year, season, host, all kinds of things. So poke around in there and see if there's some stuff you want to hear about, because it's, we have a lot and we're going to keep making more. So do you guys have any final parting words for our big 100th celebration?
Go rewatch stuff.
Yeah, and we do actually have the audio only ones on YouTube as well, but that'll just have either like the graphic or something on there. So you can listen to every single one of our episodes on YouTube, but you can watch us in person, or not in person, but see our faces and watch the conversation from episode 68 and beyond. Thank you so much for being on this journey with us, and maybe we have even more favorites to come. So happy 45th to WIF, and happy 100th episode to us. And are you going to do a 100?
Like
we don't know. We don't know the order. I was going to say we don't know the order that we're going to be on the screen, but we could almost do a 1 and a 0
because our eyes. There you go.
Oh, like the New Year's glasses?
Oh, okay. All right. 100. I don't know which way it's going. Yeah. I'll just do my pin from.
Yeah. Here's our 100th pin.
No.
All right. Well,
it's been a wonderful time in doing this. It's been fantastic. I'm learning a lot. I'm having a good time. I hope all of you who are listening and watching and downloading us, you're having a good time and watching and learning as well. And I learn from the two of you every day, and you're making me a better co-host. So I thank both of you for being on this journey with me.
Of course. And it's a love fest over here. And to our listeners, we love you for listening. And if you ever want to hear a subject that we haven't covered, or you want to suggest a topic or anything, or something you want to hear more of, please let us know. Write to us, podcast@wif.org, and you can reach us and suggest things. Or if you want to be on the show and, maybe it's a good fit, we'll see. So we would love to interact with our audience.
Can't promise anything.
Right, exactly. We're getting harder and harder to book on this show. So get while the getting's good. All right, thank you so much. Happy 100 MediaMaker Spotlight. Yay!
Thanks for listening to MediaMaker Spotlight from Women in Film and Video. To learn more about WIF, visit F as in Frank, V as in Victor.org. This podcast is created by Sandra Abrams, Candice Block, Brandon Ferry, Tara Jabari, and Jerry Reinhardt, and edited by Michelle Kim and Inez Perez, with audio production and mix by Steve Lack Audio. Subscribe to continue learning from more amazing media makers. Please visit MediaMakerSpotlight.com for more information.